As for those that are listening to us live, we're going to keep going. So there you go. So the next film that we're going to review is Godzilla, a huge franchise that has just been out there since the 70s and all the way to today. Welcome back. Sorry for that. Technical difficulties because, technology flows. I believe we are currently live still here on Blog Talk Radio. We just wrapped up our Monster Squad conversation, and we're going to be rolling into the 1998 Godzilla films. So, that being said, trying to jump onto the studio now, we'll go around real quick, and we'll get the first impressions of what the Godzilla film meant to you. So we'll start with Ian this time. Ian, what were your thoughts on the 1998 Godzilla film?
Well, this is actually my first time seeing it. I'm really happy I got to watch it before seeing the new Godzilla. And I've heard all terrible things about the 1998 version of Godzilla, and I must say it lives up to that hype. This movie was... I don't like... There's so many... It's dumb beyond, most blockbusters I can imagine. And this is directed by Roland Emmerich, who did Independence Day in 2012 and a lot of movies where he gets to blow up New York City. And there's literally there's just people shooting at Godzilla and then missing buildings, and then, you just watch the Chrysler building blow up for no fucking reason at all, just because Roland Emmerich is enjoying it. But anyway, despite it's really bad, but I will say compared to the new Godzilla, this one was at least kept me entertained, and it made me laugh for all the wrong reasons. I don't know what anybody else, if anyone else is on board with that statement. But you know what I'm saying. It's basically, I don't really know what they were going for with this version of Godzilla. They made Godzilla a mother now. What's the French actor's name? I'm blanking right now.
Leon the Professional?
Yeah, Leon. I need to look up his name because I should know it because I love Leon.
Jean
Reno complains about coffee all the time because apparently that's a French stereotype according to this movie.
French look.
It was just everything, and it was very ridiculous. The characters were dumb, but I will say there were characters there that were interesting to follow. So I don't know what you guys think, but this is a dumb movie, but it was fun.
Tom, what were your thoughts on it?
Well, I won't launch into the comparison to the new Godzilla movie just yet, because I know that's going to be a nice big can of worms. But speaking of worms, I guess we'll talk about the worm guy. No, it was fun. I haven't watched this since I was in first grade, so I remember jumping for joy in my my theater seat, whatever it was now, 16 years ago, and it's nice to see how much I've changed. Because holy crap, was this just not good at all. I like to think that the military excess was just this stunning commentary on the current military-industrial complex, but it probably wasn't. So yeah, most of it really wasn't great, although the Madison Square Garden sequence was interesting. But otherwise, I thought it was just
one
really
way to put it.
Pretty underwhelming.
Okay, Sam, what were your thoughts?
Well, Matthew Broderick was coming off a high before this movie. He had The Lion King, The Cable Guy, both of those movies I enjoy. Oh, God. I loved Jurassic Park, but when you try to breed that movie with old Godzilla movies, it just does not work.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this in its defense. It gave me a very entertaining cartoon series to watch as a kid.
Yeah! If they put the beeper in it, I would have liked it better.
What series is this? There was a
Godzilla animated series that was based on this movie, and it was on Fox Kids and stuff, and it wasn't bad. Even now, I like it. What?
I said I missed out.
Gibby, what were your thoughts on Godzilla?
I actually liked it. I didn't think it was that bad of a movie.
Have you ever been to the movies?
I mean, I had no problem with it. I actually liked it. If you actually, you guys are saying, he's a mother and all that, but I mean, that's kind of just how a lot of reptilians are and stuff. So it was just kind of kind of neat.
Godzilla was also asexual in this. They let us know that.
Yeah, of course. Everyone knows that.
School, Ian. It's an educational film too.
Exactly. I mean, it's just letting you know what's going on, and I actually enjoyed it. I've actually seen it before. I didn't realize it that it was actually this one, but I liked it back in the day, and I still like it today. I mean, it's got some cheesy parts into it, but I feel like a lot of older movies like that are always going to have that built in almost.
They were big on driving cars out of dinosaurs' mouths.
Yeah, that happens all the time, though. So I mean, in the new, what was it, Die Hard? He drove a fucking car into a helicopter. I mean, come on. Like, you look back
realistic.
I mean, you're just like yelling at it because of certain things. But I mean, that's just a movie theater. For me, I thought it was pretty good. The acting I thought was a little overdone, a little overkill, but I actually thought it was a pretty good rendition of Godzilla.
Well, the Japanese would absolutely disagree with you, because in 2004 they released a film called Godzilla Final Wars, and literally within 30 seconds, Zilla Jr., as they had entitled the Godzilla that the Americans tried to do, got his ass kicked by the real Godzilla, thrown into like I forget, some kind of building, and just blasted to hell in 30 seconds. And this was the movie that they killed him in, Godzilla Final Wars. I have the DVD, and I'm looking forward to watching it. Has about 16 monsters in it in total for Godzilla to fight, and Zilla Jr., or the Matthew Broderick Zilla, only lasted 30 seconds. So I think the Japanese are not too happy with this film.
Godzilla doesn't fight any monsters. The humans are fighting against Godzilla.
Yeah.
In this one. And also, what was Godzilla doing coming to New York City? Going from suddenly being somewhere in the Pacific Ocean in New York City. I think I like to think that Godzilla was trying to figure out, like, oh, where's a good place to bring up my family? New York City.
In the garden.
In the Knicks locker room.
It's a perfect nest already built for you, okay?
Of course.
One subject I also like to touch base on when it comes to the 98 Godzilla film is the overabundance of Simpsons voice actors that made appearances.
Yes. We should talk about this.
So go ahead. You can go ahead and start the conversation. The lead one, of course, is Hank Azaria, who does voices of Mo and many others. But
as a pretty sexist news anchor, and then we also have Hank Azaria in it as a reporter. It's a little, if you grew up watching The Simpsons, it's a little distracting because all I could hear was Principal Skinner. And then we have one other, Nancy Cartwright, who I forget who's Bart Simpson. I forget who she played in it, but she was in it.
Mm-hmm. I think she was Audrey's friend.
Okay.
I think. But like you said, Kent Brockman talking as the reporter the entire time. It was just... It was distracting. Gibby, did you pick up on any of these references?
No.
I didn't think so. Anything else to add to the Simpsons, heavy Simpsons crossover into the Godzilla universe?
I just love that they're like, let's just take every successful thing from the 90s and put it in a Godzilla movie and see what happens.
Like Blockbuster?
Well, like every single, like that whole, like Blockbuster. Like probably 30% of those shots were just Jurassic Park shots watered down. We'll just make Jurassic Park and The Simpsons, and we'll make $1 million.
And they did.
What? So apparently, go ahead.
I was gonna say this movie still made more than the Green Lantern movie. True story.
That's hurtful.
By a significant margin.
Apparently, with this film, TriStar had planned to produce a trilogy of American Godzilla films.
Oh no!
Upon acquiring the license in '92, and they were tapping Tab Murphy, that's a terrible name, to write a treatment for a sequel. What would you have felt if that Godzilla would have returned in the sequel?
Well, this was like begging for a sequel because it ends with one of the eggs hatching.
Exactly.
So they weren't even thinking, oh, maybe like this won't do well, maybe we won't get a sequel. Instead, they were like, "Oh, this is we're good here, guys. We're good. Let's have an egg hatch for no reason."
I like to see the Cincinnati police against the Godzilla.
We're just going to do it in every major city in the United States. See what
And
happens.
then work their way across. They're like the quarters.
I'd like to see a monster go to the suburbs for once.
Just like Godzilla just trampling around in New Jersey. Be like, oh, New York's fine. He's in Jersey.
To get out of the city. Too much smog for me.
Just like we did for the Monster Squad. Let's take a look at the casting. As we've already touched base on that there's a hell of a lot of Simpsons crossovers. But how did you feel about Matthew Broderick and his ridiculous name? Gibby, we'll start with you since you seem to like this film so much.
What do you mean?
Did you feel Matthew Broderick was good? Would you have put Nicolas Cage in his spot?
I liked I think all the actors are pretty much fine. The only one I actually had an issue with would be the I don't know who it was, but it was the guy with the camera.
Hank Azaria?
Azaria?
Yeah. I didn't like him at all.
He was the one I did like.
Chief Wiggum? You got a problem with Chief Wiggum?
Yes, I do, apparently.
Oh.
He was like really, really over Bronxy, which was kind of driving me nuts.
I did notice there was a lot of New York accents here and there.
And that would be my only real main issue with it. He also, I liked all the other actors. I didn't have any real issues with any of them.
Tom, what were your feelings on the casting?
I'm a huge fan of both the original and the remake of the producers, and he just did the Leopold Bloom voice the whole time. I just couldn't take anything he said seriously. And he was just kind of belching out some of that really typical, like, sci-fi, like, pretend science stuff the whole time. So you combine that with, I'm Leopold Bloom. And I just couldn't take anything he said seriously.
Sam?
What are we talking about?
We're not talking about anything. Don't worry about Sam.
What did you think of the casting for Godzilla?
I mean, honestly, there was really nothing wrong with the casting. I mean, there was some bad acting, sure, but really, what made this movie bad wasn't actors. I mean, I don't really think Maria Patillo was all that great, but Matthew Broderick, I mean, he wasn't bad. He wasn't a bad actor. He was a bad character, if that makes sense. But
yeah. And lastly, Ian, what were your thoughts on the casting?
Well, this is coming from somebody who's actually a very big fan of Matthew Broderick. He's been in a lot of great movies. He's been trained in theater, and I felt like he literally had no emotion in this. Like, I could just tell the whole time he was just waiting to get his paycheck. He delivered, I wish I had examples, but he delivered every line with about the same delivery. Like, he would just be like, oh, look, there's a monster over there, with no excitement in his voice whatsoever. It just, I don't know how to describe, like, he didn't, it's like, I guess you could call it phoning it in is the best way to say it, because I know he has more talent, but he felt very miscast in this role.
So one of the other things that were huge with Godzilla 98 is the over-marketing. And one point I want to touch base on, Taco Bell.
Oh, man.
Remember the Taco Bell commercials, especially that little dog?
Yeah. Oh, how could I forget?
The Chihuahua?
The little Chihuahua.
That's right.
We're going to need a bigger box.
When I look back at my childhood,
lizard.
Yeah, these toys and these commercials stick out the most in my mind. Ian, what was your favorite thing about the whole Taco Bell Godzilla crossover?
It's really funny that you're bringing it up, because I completely forgot about it, but I had never seen the movie before this weekend, and my memories of Godzilla as a kid were from that stupid little dog going, we're going to need a bigger box. But I think you're actually bringing up, in general, there's a lot of product placement in this movie. Especially, it's really funny because you'll see a lot of Blockbuster product placement.
Yes.
There's a lot for that. There's a scene where one of Godzilla's babies eats a Sprint sign, which is kind of counterproductive because they're eating their own product placement. Yeah, it's just how they get there. I have very mixed feelings about product placement in general. I think it can be, I understand there's a lot of good things about it. It can help you get funding for a movie. I think it's okay if it's just part of the world and if it's just there and nobody like addresses it, but it felt like it was addressing it a lot. They were not subtle about it here, and it can get irritating.
So you like product placement if it's not product placement?
I don't want to say if I like it. I'm fine with product placement if it's just there and like nobody's really acknowledging it that heavily.
Well, no, like Ian and I talked about this earlier. Iron Man 3 is supposed to have over 200 pieces of product placement in it.
I didn't know that.
But like, could you stop and name even 10 of those? Like, if I sat down, I could definitely hammer off probably 20 to 30 from Godzilla.
Yes.
Including that French special forces always go into battle with a mouth full of juicy fruit.
Gibby, what were your thoughts on the oversaturation of product placement?
I definitely have to agree. I mean, they definitely did kind of overkill it, but I feel like that was definitely back in the day. A lot of the movies had that. I think that was a major way for a lot of these larger blockbusters to actually get funded. I almost feel like.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like it hasn't really changed much. I still feel like they still do it because if you look at a lot of movies nowadays, they still have a shit ton of product placement. They're a lot more subtle about it, basically. They're not basically just jamming it down your throat like they were in, like, this one. I mean, even in the Monster Squad, we were even talking about it, how they had, like, blaring all over the place about Burger King. I mean, I think that's just, it's almost like it's an unfortunate necessity, whereas people probably don't like it as much, but it's just how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want like basically a movie to be out there, you basically need to find sponsors, and that's obviously a very easy way of finding people to basically give you money.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say they probably overdone it with just how literal they were, of how like they were just jamming it down your throat. But I feel like it's an unfortunate necessity. So.
Sam, what were your thoughts on the commercial?
On the commercial, what do you mean?
I mean the commercial commercialization. Yeah, product placement.
I'm just surprised Matthew Broderick didn't like have a Whopper in his hand at one point and take a bite into it and like look at the screen and go, "Have it your way." Thumbs up.
I want to finish my Whopper.
I mean, as a kid, I didn't notice it, but definitely going back and watching it, it kind of just makes you cringe a little bit.
Go ahead.
I guess that's just, yeah, as a kid, you don't notice those things. So I forget who mentioned it. I think it was Ryan, who said, like, you almost appreciate how much you've grown up looking back at these movies that you're like, oh, that was awesome when it came out. And you look at it again and you're like, why did I enjoy this?
Before we move on to the next topic, which I think is going to be the most hit on point when it comes to Godzilla, just some of the awards that this masterpiece had won. It won Worst Supporting Actress from the Golden Raspberry Awards, Maria Pitillo. The worst
by its full name.
The worst remake or sequel for the TriStar Pictures. So congratulations on that. It did win Best Special Effects at the Saturn Awards, and it also won BMI Film Music Awards. So the soundtrack was actually pretty badass. But does anybody?
We should talk about that end credit song for a second.
Go ahead.
The end credit song, which was a cover, a metal cover of Kashmir.
With P. Diddy, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and P. Oh my God, that was something I never thought I'd hear about.
Every Godzilla fan.
That's obviously needed in every movie, though.
So besides the soundtrack was like awesome as hell because it had like the Wallflowers, "We Could Be Heroes."
Oh.
And I definitely remember the P. Diddy and Jimmy Page singing "Come With Me," where Kashmir's the background beat, but they're singing weird lyrics and he's making love to Godzilla or something.
Oh God!
But I think the soundtrack is one of the good takeaways when it comes to this At least it's still on my playlist today. Not necessarily Godzilla the movie. But the next topic we're going to roll into, and I'm pretty sure everybody here has seen it except for maybe the one oddball who liked Godzilla 98. The Godzilla 2014.
I have not seen that one.
See, well, then I was right. Definitely huge comparisons between the 98 American take on it and now the 2014 American take on it. We'll start with Tom. What did you think of Godzilla 2014, and what did they do better than 98, and what did they do just as bad?
Well, this was the first time I almost fell asleep in a movie since Muppet Treasure Island. That shouldn't happen with a summer blockbuster. I just thought this movie was abysmally bad. As soon as Bryan Cranston died, I knew I was kind of sold Snakel, and I was going to be in for it for a while. 2014 to me was just a ridiculous series of events that managed to hide the title protagonist until the end of the movie. I mean, you could have had literally every single human being on the planet could have gone to sleep for that whole movie, and everything would have worked out fine. They were all completely irrelevant. And the rest of it, to me, was just really over the top. I'll try not to get into it and let everybody else have a say. The only thing I think they really got right was that they didn't make Godzilla sexy. Godzilla is a giant fat ass with spikes and blue fire out of his mouth. And in 1998, they tried making him into essentially just a T-Rex. But like we said, even though they weren't great characters, at least 1998 had characters. Like, how do you describe Aaron Taylor Johnson without saying what his occupation is? He's a guy who is helping with a problem.
He loves his family, so he keeps running away from them.
Yeah, just bring them to Japan. You're a lieutenant. You can afford it. You live in a very chic apartment. You're upper middle class. Just put your kid on your lap. Just go. You've been going to Iraq. You probably have frequent flyer miles or something. Come on. Like, I thought it was just absolutely horrible. The fact that the military, they swim across the whole ocean with Godzilla and don't start shooting at him. Oh my God, hang on. Until they get to San Francisco, which I realized maybe them shooting the people on the bridge was an homage to Godzilla 1998 destroying the Chrysler Building. I could go for days. I was just unbelievably. I was more disappointed by this movie than I was by Man of Steel.
Wow, that's a powerful statement because Man of Steel disappointed me.
Oh, I was heartbroken, but now my heart was broken more.
Ian, what were your thoughts when it came to Godzilla 2014 versus 98?
They're pretty close to Tom's thoughts over here. The thing is, I don't know why to say which one is better. One I can't. I would really love to just hate them both equally. But I would say that yes, this version. Okay, so I think the 98 version did not take the idea of Godzilla seriously, and the 2014 version tried very hard, which is noble of them. But let me just ask a question: have any of you seen the version of Robin Hood with Russell Crowe, the Ridley Scott version?
Yeah.
Okay, so this reminded me of Robin Hood more than anything because they're basically selling an entire movie on this legendary figure, and then you don't see that person being, or you don't see that legendary figure until the last 10 minutes of the freaking movie. There's this whole thing where when you have a movie like this, a monster movie, like what they did with Jaws, you build up to it, and you don't show the monster right away, which is great. But one, you don't really have to do that because we all know what Godzilla looks like. And two, during all that build-up time, there's literally no tension. Every time they give you like a character in the new one to care about, they immediately just kill them off or get rid of them. Like, nothing matters. There was no stakes in it, which is also why I dozed off quite a few times. I think I might have even missed a few minutes of the movie, which I feel bad for saying. But any movie with a mutant lizard, sea monster, dragon thing should not make me fall asleep. That's all I have to say. And while the 98 version was also not good at all, it kept me entertained. It had my attention. It made me ask a lot of questions, like, why would you drive a car into a dragon lizard's mouth?
Important questions.
And Taco Bell.
Why Taco Bell?
Gibby, you didn't see it.
Nope.
So screw you. Sam, what was your thoughts on the 2014 versus the 98 film?
I think everybody in this podcast saw a different movie from me because I was in it from beginning to end, and I think it's leaps and bounds superior to the 98 movie. It is not without its faults. There were problems I had with it. But, I mean, he can't even come out of the water without causing, like, massive destruction. He doesn't, like, dance around the buildings. I mean, he's gigantic. And there is no way that he can't kill, like, thousands of people without just taking a step. I mean, that was just, I like realism. And for a Godzilla film, this was probably as realistic a take on Godzilla as you can get. I understand why he wasn't around. This movie had a budget. So
he spent $170 million. How did they spend $170 million?
Wait, it was $170 million?
Yes, sir.
How much?
Or at least.
That's $40 million more than the '98 version.
Well, okay. If you want to say that they had the money, then at least I get the Jaws premise where they didn't want to bring him out right away. But like the whole time, the fight scenes pissed me off because it's like, yes, they're about to fight. Oh no, they cut away. They're about to fight. Ah, shit, they cut away again. Oh wait, here we go. Here's the big fight scene. Damn it, they cut away again.
The worst is when they shut those double doors.
Yeah. The whole crowd reacted to that in the theater that we were at.
Yeah.
A collective sigh of, oh.
But, I mean, I was in the movie from beginning to end. It had its problems. I completely agree it had its problems. But it was a far better Godzilla than I've seen in a long time.
Don't you hate we have to do that at the movies anymore? Well, guys, no matter what, it's not going to be good. But at least it wasn't that bad.
Well, I'd be willing to give this movie like an 8 out of 10. I mean, I liked it. I will buy it when it comes out on Blu-ray. I definitely liked it.
Tom, what would you give Godzilla 2014 on a 1 to 10 scale?
10 being Shawshank, 1 being Backyard Film?
Yes.
Just out of spite, I'm going to say 3.9.
So Monster Squad ranks over to the 2014 Godzilla?
Wow.
Any day of the week.
Wow.
Ian?
We're talking about 2014, right?
Yeah, because we're going to do our final thoughts on Godzilla 98 in a moment.
I would give 2014 I would give it about 3 stars out of 10.
Whew. Monster Squad.
Not
I'll give it. I'll give it 2 missing stars that Sam Lassio is missing.
Oh, so you're bumping Sam's to a 10 because you haven't gone and seen it yet.
Exactly.
Okay. Since you are not with the times and you're still stuck in the 90s, what did you think of the 98 Godzilla on a scale 1 to 10, Gibby, and your final thoughts on the movie?
Okay. My final thoughts were, I actually liked it. I thought it was a pretty good, interesting film. Granted, it did have some issues, but I would definitely go with probably around a 7 out of 10.
So, okay. All right, fair enough.
What?
I don't know why I'm laughing. I'm sorry.
Have you been to the movie?
No, I haven't. How does that sound?
It's 70% as good as Shawshank Redemption.
Exactly.
Right. Now that we put it that way, I completely agree.
Tom, what are your final thoughts on Godzilla 98?
1 to 10?
Yes.
Again, just to spite it more, I'm going to say a 3.901.
So it's above
2014.
2014 would have gotten to 3.902 if Ken Watanabe would have made more than one face. Just one more expression, Ken.
Ian, what are your final thoughts and ranking on Godzilla 98?
All right. Godzilla 98, I would give it, before I give my final review, I just found in my notes my favorite exchange in the entire movie, which was between Jean Reno and, I don't remember who the other guy was, it might have been Hank Azaria, but at one point Jean Reno goes, "You call this coffee?" And the response he gets is, "I call this America." Which is to go to the overall point that this is a movie about a Japanese monster directed by somebody that's German set in America, and I feel like the whole thing has a giant identity crisis, and I feel like half of this movie is Roland Emmerich's really weird American patriotism, which goes through like every one of his movies. I don't know how much it relates. I find it really interesting. But anyway, Godzilla 98, terribly made, really cheesy in not a good way, made no sense story-wise, special effects were terrible, but I laughed a lot, and I did have a good time watching it. So because of that, I'll give it 2.5 out of 10 stars.
Whew. Man, you guys are
Ouch.
not
My
happy
heart.
with the films tonight.
My heart, man.
We're just getting started.
I'm looking forward to our next one.
Yeah.
Sam, what was your final thoughts and rating on Godzilla 98?
Final thoughts would be, if you're very bored and you don't want to kill yourself and you're just looking for a movie, you can watch Godzilla 98.
And you don't have a copy of Monster Squad.
Yes.
But if you're looking for a Godzilla movie, no, absolutely not. As far as just a movie, it's at least watchable. But for a Godzilla movie, no, absolutely not. I'd give it like a 4.
Gibby is the only one who's given a rating to any of our movies
all
so
you
far over 5. For those of you listening here on Mega Powers Radio, our next film we'll be rolling into is Cloverfield. Those of you listening on YouTube, make sure you click to the next video to see Cloverfield. And I'm going to pause at that awkward silence because that makes editing so much easier.